Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar, the 101 series, SEO for Business Owners, during your lunch break. We really appreciate it that you're spending your time with us today. You're possibly participating in this webinar because you are either a small business owner looking to improve your SEO efforts, you could be a key stakeholder in a business who would like to improve their SEO, or you just simply want to learn more about search engine optimization.
And in order to keep this webinar on time, we're just going to move right into the content of our conversation today because, we respect your time and it is a valuable resource to you. So without further ado, we're going to get moving right away here.
All right. So a little bit of a quick run through on today's agenda. We'll be discussing SEO and what it is and why it's important. We'll do a little quick brief history of SEO, possibly some recent updates that is going on in that world. We'll talk about the different on-page and off-page activities that influence your business's SEO, and then we'll talk about how to measure those efforts. And then we will leave you with some immediate activities that you can start implementing today to better your SEO. And then, of course, we'll have a quick Q&A session at the end. So we ask that you do keep all of your questions to the end of the webinar. But we can start by introducing ourselves. My name is Brooke Baer. I'm the social media account manager here at Keystone Click, a digital marketing firm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Prior to my time here at Keystone, I worked in the transportation industry with the Midwest Trucking Company as a digital media specialist, focusing more on recruiting-based marketing. A couple years after that, found myself here in the social media role at Keystone. So focusing on developing comprehensive research and strategic plans for our clients, creating content for their social media platforms, marketing automation workflows, video production, and things like that. So today for this webinar, my counterpart will be Kyle.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name's Kyle Rovinsky. I'm the search engine marketing manager here at Keystone Click. I got my start in search engine marketing, search engine optimization, if you will, right early in college, probably my sophomore year. And it was really funny for me because I think I've always been sort of interested in the internet and how things work online. But, I took a course and one of my professors, had mentioned SEO, and I looked it up in the book, and there was literally just one paragraph about it. And I was like, so is this basically really just inserting a keyword into copy and making sure that, that it's strategic and that you're showing up for it in places? And the professor was like, yep, that's it really. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, wow, that's really nothing in the grand scheme of things. And as I started to research it further and learn more, I just, found that that was not it at all anymore. And maybe back in the early days of the internet, but so from there I did a lot of self-education, and I would consider that a really grassroots start in the whole industry. Had some internships, and then ended up working with after I graduated, ended up working with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses across the United States, to increase their brand exposure online, and really just a lot of search engine focused activities. From there, I decided to move on to a larger agency where I could really put my skill set to a larger test with some more mid-sized to larger brands in the United States, and many local brands as well. And so that leaves me to where I am now at Keystone Click. So, Brooke and I put together a really interesting webinar for you here. Just wanted to make sure that it is educational and bringing as much value as possible. So without further ado, let's just get right into the meat of this webinar here. So I suppose the first thing we should do is kind of set the basis for our conversation today. And I think, let's just understand what search engine optimization is. And I'm sure as a business owner, you've either heard that you need SEO or you've read it somewhere online, but I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same definition here. And for the basis of this conversation, we're just going to say that search engine optimization is about making sure that your website and the various content forms that you have online show up in Google. And we probably shouldn't just say Google, because there are plenty of search engines out there. We have Google, obviously. We have Yahoo. Back in the day, there was more AOL, Ask Jeeves, which I hear is actually maybe making a
Mhm,
comeback.
mhm.
Today we have DuckDuckGo, but there are several types of search engines out there, and you may have heard of some companies lately that have really, I guess, lead the search engine industry, search engine marketing or SEO industry. And one of these companies is called Moz. And you probably heard of Moz recently in the news, maybe about a year ago. The founder wrote a book that pretty much breaks out the whole startup industry and talks about, it's kind of like a manual for a startup company. And so Moz defines the practice of SEO is of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search engine results. So with those two definitions in mind, I think those definitions, they match up really nice to each other, and they form a really good basis for our conversation here. So I would also add to these thoughts, though, that search engine optimization in 2019 is not just making sure that your website is showing up in Google or about earning quality and quantity visitors to your website. It's more about the search engine experience online and making sure that your brand is delivering a positive experience on, let's just say, Google for our conversation today. Brooke and I will actually be referring to most of these things within the mind of Google. So, you just heard me use the phrase search engine experience, and there are so many ways that you can earn a customer online or educate and engage a prospect without even bringing them to your website. So with that in mind, couple that with less and less people actually clicking through to websites. It's actually been a documented thing lately that from people reviewing their Google Analytics that click-through rates are dropping, and it's kind of leaving SEOs to kind of wonder what's going on. And some people have been talking about the idea of cannibalization from Google, just like ripping all of your content and kind of showing it on their search engine without actually getting people to click through. And in a way, I mean, that's okay, or not. It's the trajectory of business, I guess, because really Google is a business. They're trying to make money, and we actually just happen to be along for the ride in terms of using their search engine for free. So I think in a way we just kind of have to suck it up, but it is kind of sad. So, since this is an SEO 101 course, I do want to make sure we talk about the history of Google and what the search engine started out as. And I do believe that to understand where we are today, you really have to look at where we've come from. So, going back to where Google started out sometime in 1998, and I have this timeline up here, right here. And, in 1998, it was a very simple process. As you know, the web was still very young, but basically you'd enter a search query and Google would return the possible items that they would want you to look at. And I know that sounds incredibly similar to what we do today, but it's different. It's just different because of the technology that is being used by not only Google to return these results, but also we're not just searching on a computer anymore. It's in the palm of our hand. Some people are searching with their voice. So couple that with technological changes. In 2019, search is completely different than where it was 21 years ago. In addition, Google is now returning multiple forms of search results. They're no longer just showing text-based results. They're showing map results. They're showing reviews. They have ads. They have videos, tweets, all these things that show up in the search engine that were not even possibilities back when Google first started. For example, in the early 2000s, a website might have ranked because the website had a keyword in the title tag or the body content, or in the meta description, and that was a factor back in the day. It was a huge factor, but now it's not. And that is, it's rudimentary to do all these things. It's absolutely pivotal that you do. But if anyone tells you that that's all you need to do to rank for a key, for an important keyword to your business, I believe you're getting scammed. Instead, in the modern day, in 2019 here, there are literally hundreds of signals being sent all over the web that Google will look at to help indicate, well, should we rank this higher than this, or what deserves number one, what deserves number three, and all these things that would, be important KPIs for measuring, should this website be ranked. One of the common things back in the day to do was keyword stuffing, and you still hear this phrase a lot recently, and I think this is kind of due to people thinking about optimizing their conversion copy, or if it's you're launching a new app, you want to gamify the app store search, you want to really keyword stuff, but ultimately back in the day, in the late 90s, people would just create an invisible layer on their website, put the same keyword repeating indefinitely on there, and it would rank number one because the keyword was stuffed into the website. And essentially it would trick the search engine, and Google is really not a fan of that and will absolutely penalize your site if that is the case. And just as these ranking factors were incredibly basic, so were the crawlers. These web spiders, if you will, were indexing on exact phrases. But now in 2019, they're looking at contextual and semantic relationships among the words you use, and all the different possible variations that could be used of it, and saying, is this serving a search need? So on the whole, things have just changed dramatically. But if you understand that it's not just about the one keyword anymore, but it's about the time, it's really putting a customer focus on the search intent. I think it would be important now to talk about some of the activities that influence SEO, so that you can at least go back and start thinking about what you think you'd like to implement after this webinar here. There are a handful of tactics that you can put into play, ranging from on-page things, that stuff you directly affect on your website. So if it's keywords, if it's meta tags, if it's content, or there's a number of off-page things that you can do that, remember, these off-page signals are things that don't come from your website. But the best place to probably start is on your website. So let's talk about these on-page tactics a little bit. So again, on-page tactics are the things that you can physically do on your website to try to earn ranking or increase your authority online. And just to start out, this is the content, the copy, the type of content you have, the way it is laid out, and of course the markup you provide on your page. So I'd highly recommend looking into schema markup if you want to learn more about that. It's definitely a way to help search engines better categorize your pages, and I'm sure it is going to stay around for a very long time. So let's just start off with a title tag, meta description, and headers. And as I mentioned before, that if anyone says, that's the way that you increase SEO, I would say to look a little deeper into that, because that is not the only way to do it these days. It's very small. It's just a rudimentary thing that you have to be doing. So while these things still hold value, really it's just about making sure that the search engine understands what your page is about, and that it's indexing it correctly, that it's being able to read it correctly, and all these things that just help to index the page properly. So from a ranking stance, remember, it's not the only thing to do, and it's not that effective. I think you just need to think that these are the basic things you should be doing on your site. So where it gets a little more advanced is the actual copy and content that you're putting on your site. This is where the ranking factors will come into play, because this is the true art and science of SEO. Not only do you have to research what is actually being asked online, what people are searching for, but you need to create this content that is referred to as 10x content. And this is the type of content that doesn't exist online. It's the content that when you make it, you're ranking for it because there hasn't been this type of content before. And ultimately, the trick there is to keep writing 10x content, because if you do, it's going to provide better value, and that'll come back to you in terms of, revenue, new customers, traffic to your website, all these great things. So really what you're looking for here in all this content is the why component, because that is what drives most search intent online. And it also helps you understand where your customers or where your prospects or where these searchers are coming from in the sales funnel, which at the end of the day just helps you to sell them better and better and better. So mastering the component of 10x content will absolutely jumpstart your SEO mastery. And if you're curious about what 10x content is if you really want to get into it deeper and like maybe some best practices for writing it, I would recommend just Googling 10x content and see what comes up. You'll learn a lot right there. So of course, then there are the keywords, which is the cream of the crop, whatever you want to say. The way you use there's thousands of tools that are out there these days for keyword research, but one of the main ones I would recommend starting with if you're just looking to get your hands into something is Google Keyword Planner. This is going to help you plan out which keywords are vital for your website, see what people are searching, but do keep in mind that it's commercialized. So Google is trying to make money off of these things. So you're going to want to double check this data. You're going to want to triple check it. In fact, there's other tools that SEO professionals use, SEMrush, Moz, SpyFu. All these things are third-party tools that use third-party data other than Google to just see what type of queries are being searched and if the data stacks up with what Google is reporting. So once you've done this, all this keyword research, which I would say take some time with it. Start slow, pick out 5 keywords that you really are interested in getting for your site, and just work on working in that content and getting it onto your site, and you'll be well on your way to some quick on-page SEO.
So speaking of those keywords, Kyle, that you're talking about, I want to talk a little bit about blogging. And I'm not talking about travel blogs or blogging about the best cheeseburger that you just had last night at a restaurant. I'm talking about the blogging that talks about a given topic in your industry. So blogging is an instrumental way that your business can rank in search engine searches. It's an opportunity to share your expertise, share your knowledge on a topic, which can be based on those keywords that Kyle was talking a lot about. You'll take those keywords that you just found, what people are talking about in your industry, what your competitors are talking about, what questions your audience has, and you want to take those keywords and those key phrases and write blogs about those, answer those questions. Create that educational content that will provide value to your audience, because that's what blogging is all about, right? When you're typing in a question in Google, you see a little snippet that shows up. It's the first thing that pops up on Google. It'll have a couple bullet points and it'll answer your question. And so that's blogging SEO at its finest. Google will search and crawl with those spiders that Kyle was talking about before to find the best blog that will answer your search that you typed in. And so if your blog is relevant, if it's credible, and if it answers the questions, Google will pull it and put it in that snippet. So there's pros and cons to that, because there's a pro where if people are still interested in learning more about what your blog answered in that snippet, people will click to it, right? So that'll increase traffic to your website. But then there's a con, because if you answer their question right there in that snippet, you'll lose out on that website traffic. There's a little controversy over that, whether it's good or bad, whether people favor it or not, but that is still very good for SEO and for your ranking. So if you have those blogs that answer that question, if it's relevant content, it'll show up and it'll help your website rank higher, and you can potentially outrank your competitors by posting those blogs based on those keywords and those topics that people are searching that you find in your keyword research. Mm-hmm. So blogging obviously is on page, right? Because it's written content, it's on your website. So I want to talk about off-page SEO influences. And so the first one that we want to mention is social media, in particular Twitter and YouTube. Social media can't necessarily influence your ranking, but it can help. So if you see the screenshot, you'll see that I Googled Keystone Click, and the second and third thing that pops up is our Facebook account and the most recent tweets. So I want to talk about Twitter for a second. So as you can see in this screenshot, I just searched Keystone Click, and the second and third thing that pops up is our Facebook account and then our most recent tweets. So that's kind of a cool thing about Twitter, is that when you post on Twitter, Google will pull your tweets and people can actually see the physical post. Like up to the 3 tweets that you see there, your most recent tweets will be shown.
It's cool because if you have content, like very specific content in there that you want people to see, it could show up there, and they don't even have to see it on Twitter.
Right,
It's
which
great.
is exactly why you need to post the consistent and the relevant content that you want to bring value for your audience. Because if they see that on Google, they might just go to your Twitter account and follow it because that's the kind of content that they want to see. So your content has to reflect your brand and it has to be value to your audience. That is the key right there. So written articles, videos, and images are actually the 3 most engaging types of content on social media. So keep that in mind when you're developing your content calendar. Yes, Twitter will help in ranking and showing up, but it is not the end-all be-all. It's simply a small component that can add to your SEO efforts, and it's something that you can implement right away. So I want to talk a little bit about YouTube now for a second here. As you can see on the screenshot, I Googled Yahoo, and what came up is you see the tweets, which we talked about before, and then you see some videos that Google pulled. And you never know when Google is going to pull it. No one really understands that algorithm. But this is called a dynamic search. Google likes dynamic searches because it brings in different forms of content, making that search engine experience better for people. And they get more content, different forms of content, so they can click on articles, tweets, videos, whatever it is. It's all about the user experience is what it comes down to. So video content is important to have. Some great ideas of video content to have are product videos because people like to see their product in use before they purchase it. You could have a company history video, an about us video, and things like that. And so if you remember the back screenshot about Keystone Click, you saw on the right side there was this panel. Kyle will talk to you a little bit about what that is, what it means, how it helps your SEO.
Yeah, and that's it's called Google My Business, and it's a great free tool from Google. So I say free, and I kind of put air quotes around that because it's that Google is going to get their money, really. So basically, though, out of all the places online that Google looks to pull data from to generate information about businesses for users, this is the one place that you can actually directly influence, and I believe it's absolute magic. So these are, the data you can influence is the name, address, phone number, website, some questions and about your business, really. There are some people that say it actually increases the ranking the more you use it. Like Google wants to see an active Google My Business page, which they do. It definitely helps. I mean, it definitely makes sense. But the other camp is like, it doesn't, it just allows you to manipulate the data that you share on Google. And I'm honestly on the train of, hey, if it's going to help drive people to your business, or it's a deal breaker between someone finding you on Google or not, I say maximize it to as much of an advantage as it is for your business, and do what makes sense for your business. Every business is different. So if you only need to put your name, address, phone number on there in your service area, that's it. Put a couple pictures of your staff. But otherwise, if you're more of a brick and mortar shop, you're going to want to put these pictures of your business on there. You're going to want to put, if you're comfortable putting pictures of your staff, you'll want to do the interior and outside photos. Every business ultimately will want to take advantage of the Google posts. It's kind of their revival of social media, if you will. But, this is one of my most favorite off-page tools because it shows exactly, like the dashboard they provide you shows exactly how many people called your business from Google. It shows many people find your business. It shows how they found your business. And it even shares the keywords that they use to for your Google My Business panel to pop up. And so I think it's just a great tool, but my number one tip here is don't create a website on the Google My Business panel. Just enter your real website's URL, and it will perform better than what you see Google My Business websites doing. One more off-page tactic that I want to talk about before we get into some measurement things here is link building. And I think this is one things that needs to at least be addressed. We won't get into it too deep because link building in itself is just a whole another practice that takes a lot of time to understand and master. And I wouldn't even say you can really master it because it's constantly changing. It's tricky and people are fidgety. It's odd. But basically the idea is that you're getting links that come back to your website from reputable sources and quality websites, not spammy websites, and overall pass on authority and trust to your brand through the eyes of Google. And that is the basis of what link building is trying to do. So some link building strategies include, finding companies that have similar goals as you and kind of aligning yourselves together and saying, we can link to each other's content, and kind of like help each other out. And then additionally, there's the whole reaching out to the webmaster of a website and saying, hey, I saw that you have this content here, and it actually reflects some of what I have on my site. So would you mind giving me a link and where someone could learn more information about this or whatnot? So definitely something to think about and keep on your radar, but it's absolutely an advanced SEO tactic. So now let's talk about some measurable activities. How do you exactly measure these activities, and how do you know if you're successful? Well, the very first thing you could start by doing is Google your business. You should definitely be Googling the keywords that are related to your business or key phrases, whichever, and see how your company stacks up. Because if you think you should be ranking for those terms, most likely you should be. But you should also be considering, what other people, like what would your customers use to search you? And if you think you should be ranking for those terms, that's what you should be measuring. Have you moved up in the search results? But then there are also a number of third-party tools out there. Google Analytics is a first-party tool, but this is specifically just a health component for your website. You're going to want to know like what type of traffic you're getting, where's it coming from, how long are they sticking around. But then additionally, there's these tools like we mentioned before. There's Moz, SpyFu, Ahrefs, SEMrush, and they all do a little bit of different reporting. At the end of the day, they're going to help you find the keywords that you should be ranking for. They're going to show you, are you ranking for certain keywords? Do you have one of these featured snippets that Brooke brought up earlier with regard to blogging? And overall, is your site showing up for what you need it to be? And that is the number one way to see if you're successful. But I know Brooke has some great takeaways that I agree these are things you're going to want to implement immediately.
So you just listened to our first webinar on SEO for Business Owners 101, and I know you're just dying to get started on your SEO efforts and implementing those tactics that we talked about to on-page and off-page influences for your SEO. It won't happen overnight, like Kyle was talking about. It takes a little while. Posting consistently, having that relevant content both on your website and throughout the web, and making sure that you're providing that educational and valuable content to your audience, because essentially that's what it comes down to, is the user experience. So to get started, we recommend auditing what you're currently doing and see where the gaps are. So here at Keystone Click, we offer a free digital marketing audit where we give you a 25-point website analysis. We check out your social media health checks and a couple more things. So visit keystoneclick.com for more information and to sign up for your audit. But aside from the audit, we recommend, like Kyle said, do that keyword research. Use the Google Keyword Planner. See what people are talking about in your industry. See what people have questions about. See if you can write blogs on those topics to answer those questions and hopefully get that featured snippet. This is a great way to get in front of your audience. So with that wraps up our first webinar on the 101 series on the topic of SEO for business owners. We hope that this was enjoyable and educational. We hope that you implement some of these takeaways to see your business grow and to see your business rank higher in Google. We do have a few minutes here for questions if you have anything. So ask away. Kyle and I will answer to the best of our abilities.